Welcome to the garden. Today we're going to be identifying wild violets, specifically the common blue violet. As you can see, the flowers are more of a purple color, and they can come in a wide variety of shades. The one back here is a bit more white with blue stripes. There are others that are sort of a bluish purple, or a pale purple, or vivid dark purple. They're just extraordinary. We can identify these because of their heart-shaped leaves and bright purple flowers. If they're not in bloom, you can still see their little heart-shaped leaves coming to a nice point and having tiny little rounded teeth at the edge of the leaf. And they grow from a central point right down here by the soil. You can see how they all sprout from the same little stem. This is actually sort of the root. If we uproot the plant here, it has this really hardy kind of stem-like root, and then from that sprout the finer hair-like roots. The flowers and the leaves are perfectly edible, but I would avoid the roots. Some sources say they are edible, other sources say they're used medicinally, but I'm just going to avoid them entirely. Occasionally the lower leaves can be round at the tip. That can make them a little tricky to identify because there's a lot of lookalikes, like the little leaf buttercup. So you really want to make sure they're flowering if you're going to eat these. We do want to rinse these off because they can have little bugs on them. We can give them a little spin like that. And these are incredibly mild. They're actually not very flavorful at all, which makes them perfect for salads, sandwiches, and you can even cook these like spinach. And this leaf is very smooth to the touch, which gives it an excellent texture. Very mild flavor, almost no flavor at all, which is great for a green. If you think about the flavor of lettuce, there's really not much to it, and that's why we like it. Absolutely delicious. And we can eat the flowers as well. Just gonna give it a little spin here. And these don't really have any aroma, but let's check out the flavor. It actually has a little bit more flavor than the leaf. I just cut a little cross section there with my teeth, and it looks like we can see the anatomy of the flower. But that is just fascinating, isn't it? Getting a look inside of a flower. And to me it actually tastes kind of like a pepper, like a bell pepper, kind of a sweet, peppery flavor. Let's finish off our little snack here. These are high in vitamin A and C. They have soluble fiber and even an antioxidant. The antioxidant rutin is also an anti-inflammatory and can even be used for blood thinning. It's even reported to have salicylic acid, which is the ingredient in aspirin. Traditionally, it's been a remedy used for a dry cough, a sore throat, and other lung-related issues. In higher doses, it has a laxative effect, so it's been used for constipation. It's also been used for insomnia, as a poultice, and even in love potions. The European counterpart is called a sweet violet because of its wonderful fragrance. Unlike these common blue violets, the European sweet violet has a wonderful aroma. So it's been used for perfumes, and the ancient Greeks added it into love potions. Fascinating. I know of 2 other types of violets, but they're much more rare. This is a beautiful yellow violet, and we can tell it has a little bit longer, thinner leaves. They do often curl like this one down here, and they're very slightly fuzzy. The common blue violets are usually smooth, although I just found one this morning that had a little bit of fuzz. These often grow just slightly different as well. You can tell these leaves do fork on the stem. Just this one stem splits off into 2 leaves and a flower. So it's just subtly different than our common blue violets. Some sources say these are edible, others say they're not. So we're going to avoid them today because of their fuzzy texture, and they could possibly be harmful. Common blue violets, though, are perfectly safe and absolutely delicious. And out in the park, I've seen white violets with red stripes. Those are a bit more rare. Common blue violets are the state flower of Wisconsin, Illinois, Rhode Island, and New Jersey. These flower in early to mid-spring, around May here in Minnesota. And they're widespread in eastern and central North America, where they're actually native. In case you're curious, the Minnesota state flower is the showy lady slipper, which is a type of orchid. And actually these flowers have a sort of orchid-like appearance. They have 2 attention-grabbing top petals here, 2 really broad petals that just guide the insects right in, and a little lip at the bottom, like an iris or an orchid. You can really see how it just guides you in. They want the insects climbing right up inside the flower so that it can get pollinated. Then they produce these little pods at the end, similar to the back of the flower. They kind of look like a little bean. And they open up in a fascinating way. It's a really interesting 3-pronged seed pod. And all those little tiny black seeds, those can last in the soil for years. So they really do self-sow well. They're often considered a weed as they come up in grass and along trails, and usually alongside other weeds like dandelions. These are coming up on a walkway, so I'm going to pull them as a weed, but I'll make sure to transplant them if I can. I like to wait till after a rainy day so that the soil is nice and soft, and we should be able to just pull them out by that root. And really we want to keep this stem-like part intact. The finer roots are just a bonus. But these transplant really well. They actually make wonderful borders and little accents. If you can't grip the root really well, getting underneath it will make it a lot easier to pull. Look at how smooth that was. And this is how I do a whole bunch at once. I'm just using a butter knife from the kitchen, although this one is specifically for gardening. These are really easy to find at thrift stores and garage sales. Sometimes you can just get them for pennies. And really we want to pull these roots out so that they don't come back next year. Look at that hardy root. It's like a potato. It has tons of energy packed in there. This is really the heart of the plant. And you can see sometimes it'll sprout these tiny little flowers under the leaf litter. They may even get a second wind later in the season. Around autumn they can set out new growth and even flower again. And these are really simple to transplant. We're just going to bury those roots and leave a little bit of that hardy stem sticking out of the soil. Just like that. We don't want to bury that all the way. That way it'll sprout roots below the soil and leaves above. I'm transplanting these in a row, right along a walkway. I think they make really nice low-growing borders. They can get about maybe 6 to 8 inches tall, so you want to set them at least 6 to 8 inches from your trail. But they don't spread too quickly, and they really fill in nicely. So I hope you keep an eye out for wild violets in your garden. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.